Good morning. So I know the experiential is over, but I'd like to begin with an experiential exercise this morning, a very short one. Yeah. So could I ask you to stand up behind your chairs, push all your bags and luggage underneath the table. Yep. Just so there's plenty of space, because we're going to walk around the room a little bit. All right. So here's an exercise which I'm going to take part in and Antonio's going to take part in, but not the two cameramen. Are not going to take part in the exercise. Okay, I'm going to give the exercise, the instructions. They'll be very kind of short instructions. Yeah. And then the exercise will go about 4 or 5 minutes, something like that. Then it'll be over and done with, and then we'll talk about it. Okay. So here's the instruction. I would like you to move around the room and say hello to as many people as you like, as many times as you like, with one constraint. And that constraint is you may not use your voice. You may begin. Okay, so what I want you to do now is just, if you've got a piece of paper, just take some notes as to what that experience was like. But I don't want you to I'd like to invite you to do it in a mindful kind of way. So let me kick off by telling you what the experience was like for me. Yeah, I stood down here. A number of people walked straight, so I said very clearly, Antonio and myself were part of the exercise. And people walk straight past us, yeah? Well, straight past me, I know. That is the most insincere "I'm sorry, Ben" I've ever heard, yeah? So people walk past me, but then it gets kind of so that's actually quite normal. So when I do this exercise with executives and things like that, it's exactly normal. They just walk straight past you because there's something about authority that kind of keeps people at their distance, you know? But then I'd like to kind of go into a couple of other sort of sentiments that go on. For example, what goes on when I go up to Joao, and I did this with a few people, with Lubo and a few others, and I put my hand on here. And I'm waiting for Joao to put his hand on my hand too, and he doesn't. He does eventually. But what does that feel like? What does it feel like when I see Agnes coming down? She catches my eye, but gives someone a hug in front of her, and then turns around and walks back the other way. What does that, you remember that, don't you? Yeah? Yeah. What does it feel like? What does it feel like, you know, when, who was it that came down with the, Karine comes down with a big hug. You know, she shakes hand and then she moves forward with a big hug. Do I hug her back? Well, wait a minute, you know, I'm the authority figure I should protect. I shouldn't do this sort of thing, yeah? And then Dorival comes down. Is he playing with me? Or is he sincere? All these thoughts are going through my mind. What's the nature of our relationship? So what I'd like you to do now is, can you get to that level now and think, what just happened in 5 minutes? Because there was an awful lot that just happened. Yeah? And we're all just being normal human beings. Yeah, we're all being normal. So if you'd like to write a few thoughts down, what did it feel like during those 5 minutes? Personally, I'm always glad when it's over. Yeah? And then discuss with the person next to you what thoughts and feelings went through your mind in those 5 minutes. So when you're ready, if you want to just chat amongst yourselves, just share it while other people are still reflecting. Just share what the experience was like. So let's just debrief what was going on in the class in that moment. So what I've written up here is I ask you not to use your voice. So you develop another language. Yeah? So all voices, it's a set of signals which we use to communicate to each other. I take that major form of communication away. You very quickly find other mechanisms, all right? So we have nods, we have bows, we have high fives, eye contact, which goes with some of these, handshakes, double handshakes, back slaps, some pretty strong, scary back slapping going on there. Kisses, hugs, anything else you want to add to that? Yep. Sorry? Fist? Fist, what do you call that? A fist? Fist pump. Fist pump. All right, sorry. God, I feel old. Yeah. Fist pump. Yep. B. Sorry? There was a chest bump? Where does the chest bump go in here? Back slap, yeah. Smile. Great, okay. Smile. Well, actually, there's hundreds you could add in here. There's tons of little nuanced signals that were sent. Bogdan?
Live long and prosper.
Right, is that that's a, what does it mean?
Live long and prosper. It's from Star Trek.
Okay, Star Trek. Yeah, right, okay. When I write, the only point I want, we develop a vocabulary for saying hello to each other, and I've drawn it in a kind of a continuum along there. What is the underlying dimension to this continuum? Connection and intimacy, yeah. So generally we'd call it, technically the term we call for it is intimacy. Okay? Now, so we develop, interestingly, across most cultures, people will say those signals are fairly consistent. Yeah, that continuum is fairly consistent. Once you take voice away, these things. The only debate I tend to get with French people who tend to put the kiss before the hug, and Anglo-Saxons say, no, the kiss is definitely after the hug. Yeah. So, and there are some few nuances around bowing and smiling in Asian countries about what they actually mean. That's the easy part here. The question is, what does this stuff all mean? Yeah. So you have 91 people, counting Antonia and myself, that you could potentially say hello to. Yeah? Do you say hello the same way to each person? Did anyone say hello to everybody in exactly the same way? No. So the first thing we notice is you differentiate. Yeah? How do you know how to differentiate between one person and another? How do you know?
There's a gender first.
So, gender?
I don't do a hug as strong as men or women.
Okay.
Enrique, it was quite...
Yeah. So gender is one way. What's another way you might do it, Mazen?
It depends on the reaction of the other.
Okay. So it depends on the reaction of the other. Okay, very important point. Now, the other, of course, is thinking the same thing. They're depending on your reaction. So how do we figure this out? How do we figure it out? So eyes, yeah. So it's a little bit of eyes. Then what? You try. Yeah. So can I suggest you take a risk? Yeah, you take a risk. Yeah? Or you play it safe. Yeah, so you might play it safe and wait for them to move first, or you'll take a risk and be an initiator. Wonderful. What else? How else do we know how to differentiate? Agnes? What's the existing relationship? Yeah? So you will just know this is a person I'm going to hug, or you'll just know that this is a person that, you know, we'll be formal about this. Okay, you just know that. Yeah, Peter?
I think you would also do it based on what you did to the previous person. So.
All right. So what would we find you doing if you did something to the previous person? Yeah, let's say you go up to some person, you go, hug, and then you go, oh, and then there's Ben. Oh my God, it's Ben. But what, and so you give me a hug even though actually you may not want to. Why would you do that? Why would you do what you just described? Because that does happen. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So discomfort. Yeah, anything else? What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, once you establish a pattern, it's easier just to go with the...
Right, yeah, so you stick with the pattern, yeah. So you start using the same, use the same vocabulary. So let me exaggerate this a little bit, yeah? Because I do see people doing this, when they do this exercise, they get through the whole exercise not differentiating from it. I'm kind of saying when I do that, sorry, Dorival, I'm saying to you, let's make it really clear here, no ambiguity, no risks. I'll do this, you'll do it back, yeah? And we'll get through this process. Do you see what I mean, the subtlety of it, okay? So use the same vocabulary might be a way of protecting yourself from any discomfort. If I do this, yeah, I'm actually making sure no one can make me feel uncomfortable. Is this stretching it too far? This is what goes on, right? Second by second, every day. Yeah? Eye contacts pulled away towards each other. And of course, we're all grown-ups, we deal with it. Yeah? We're all mature, we can get on with it. Yeah? Here's the thing that I'd like you to get in touch with is this feeling of discomfort, because in this exercise there's enormous potential for discomfort. Yeah? And yet we have to differentiate between people. So some people we might make feel a little bit uncomfortable, and other people we might feel more comfortable. Would it be too much of a stretch that basically the emotions that you feel during this exercise are either acceptance or rejection? Is that stretching it? The basic deep down feelings that are there, even though it's kind of like just a silly exercise, but that's what you feel on a second by second basis as you travel through life. Yeah? And that this feeling here is the uncomfortable one. Yeah, it's the uncomfortable one. It's the one that you would like to avoid. In fact, it is the basic human need to avoid rejection from the moment you're born. From the moment you emerge from your mother's womb and you grab onto that breast and you say food, security, safety, that search for not being rejected tends to stay with you through life. We just get more adult at dealing with rejection. The connection between this experience, this feeling of rejection and leadership is absolutely profound. You couldn't really debate it. That is what leadership is at the end of the day. It is exposing yourself to rejection. You said it rather wonderfully. Yeah? It's this idea that what you have to do is you wait for the reaction of the other. Well, what's the other going to say? Oh, if you're always going to wait for their reaction, you might play it safe, yeah, at some level. Yeah, in what you do. So that's how I want to talk about this topic of trust and connection, and then get into the idea of inner strength, because I think it's very central to your assignments and the work that we'll do over this.